A Kansas City law firm has now concluded its racial disparities in the University of Iowa football program. Radio Iowa's Todd Kim with more.
The report says the Iowa football program adheres to a philosophy that mandates conformity and discourages individualism. 45 current and 29 former players were among those interviewed by the law firm, and many felt the foundation of discipline allowed some coaches to bully and demean athletes, and many black players felt targeted.
In sports, Fort Dodge softball fell 5-1 in the state championship game last night to Cedar Rapids Kennedy. The Cougars would score 4 in the third on 4 hits from the top of their lineup. The Dodgers would get 1 in the third as Malia Lowry would score their lone run after reaching on a bunt single. Dodgers would leave 2 on base in the third. Kennedy would tack on another run in the fifth. Dodgers from Malia Lowry, but managed just a total of 3 hits off University of Nebraska signee Kaylin Kinney. Jalen Adams, Haley Wills, and Martina Lowry all named to the all-tournament team for the Dodgers. With the loss, the Dodgers still had a history-making season, going to the state championship game for the first time in program history. They'll graduate 1 usual starter and a total of 2 seniors from this year's team, who finishes as regional champions, state runner-ups, and closed the season with a 28-4 record. In the 5A third-place game, Ankeny Centennial no trouble with Muscatine, 10-0. In the Class 4A state championship game, Winterset upset Carlisle 4-3 to win the state title. Winterset entered as the 7 seed in the tournament and upset number 2 West Delaware in the quarters 7-4. As 6 seed Dallas Center Grimes 2-1 and upset defending champion Carlisle 4-3 in the finals. Winterset's Lauren Carter with 4 hits on the night and 2 RBIs. In the third-place game in 4A, Dallas Center Grimes a winner 8-4 over North Scott. Championship games on the agenda today. The 1A state championship at 7:30 tonight. The nightcap, Collins Maxwell, the number 1 seed, takes on Clarksville. In Class 2A, the Ogden Bulldogs will play for the state championship. They're the 3 seed. They'll play at 5 o'clock, taking on undefeated number 1 seed North Lynn. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn up a quarter penny at $3.16. December up a quarter cent at $3.27. March unchanged at $3.38 1/4, and May up a quarter penny at $3.46. August soybeans up 5 3/4 at 8.5. September up 3.5 cents at $8.90 1/4. November up 4 1/4 at $8.92 1/2, and January beans up 4 1/4 at $8.98. September wheat closed up 1 3/4 at $5.31 1/4. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at $2.89.30. August live cattle up $1.10 at $102.82. October up $1.12 at $107.87. August feeder cattle up $1.65 at $144.67. September up $1.80 to close at $146.22. August lean hogs up 57 cents at $52, and October up $1.30 at $49.62. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with highs around 81. North winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 56. Tonight, clear skies. Mainly sunny. Tomorrow, chance for isolated thunderstorms, 86. Upper 70s Sunday and Monday with a chance for scattered thunderstorms Sunday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 82.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the Doctor of Truth here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and you can follow this program by going to YouTube now. Type in 1400 KVFD. Those are lowercase letters. and you'll be able to see as well as hear what happens in the studio. Also, you can contact us by going to Twitter at JMike1400, Facebook at AM1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Excuse me, I shouldn't have said at, just 1400 KVFD here in town, and there we are. And, of course, again, our number is 955-1400. I'm pleased to welcome to the program for the first time John Shudd of Pocahontas. He's a farmer and a corn grower. I've known John off and on for many, many years. How are you, John?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thank you for asking me to be on your show.
No, I really appreciate you being here, and especially the fact that you were willing to appear in studio, drive down from Pocahontas. I really do appreciate that, because it's just so much easier to talk back and forth rather than on the phone. When the COVID, well, we're still not out of the COVID thing, but I couldn't have anybody in here for a while. Everybody had to call me on the phone. It was just never really that good. Mm-hmm. John is also with the Iowa Corn Growers in Pocahontas. And do you have a position there, John? Or
I'm on the corn grower board. I've been on the board for probably 25 years.
Oh, really? Okay. Are you on any other commodities board like Soybean Association, or do you raise hogs at all?
No, I'm just a grain farmer, and I have a seed corn dealership. But
oh, you do? That's right, you did, didn't you?
Yes, but I raised hogs up until about 15 years ago, and then I got out of the business.
You getting too old, John?
Yes.
I remember John Shutt when he could hit a softball a country mile. I do. Anyway, let's talk about the renewable fuel standard, and we do need to talk more and more, and this, in addition to the racial situation in our area, this is we need to talk about how COVID is affecting the farm economy, what's happening on the farm, and certainly what's happening in Washington, D.C. And I know a lot of us out here, myself included, were a little disappointed in the Trump administration. They don't seem to be necessarily supportive of RIN numbers, that sort of thing, and that's and the renewable fuel standard in general, they don't seem to be very supportive of. Not as supportive as I thought they would be when Terry Branstad went to, he went to China actually, but I was hoping we'd see a little bit more.
Yes, Mike. I know President Trump, he has talked to the corn growers several times and has always promised that he was going to help us out and gave us his support, but it seems though what he says and what the EPA does are two different things.
Yeah, it really does. He's got a lot of oil state senators around him all the time.
Yes, but hopefully that in the near future the EPA will start applying the 10th Circuit Court decision, which basically protects the small refinery exemption, or the RFS, against the small refinery exemptions.
It was my great pleasure and honor to speak with Senator Chuck Grassley just yesterday about this very issue, and he didn't have any good news necessarily, but Chuck's an honest guy. Chuck Grassley seems to be when he comes back here and talks to us, or he's on the local radio stations, he'll lay out what happens, and he does believe that the president is not keeping his Department of Energy chief under control, and certainly the EPA people who we kind of depend on to blend ethanol for us. How much corn is blended out of Iowa every year?
Okay, in Iowa, in 2019, the U.S. ethanol plants, that's the U.S. ethanol plants, used 5.4 billion bushels of corn. In 2020, the USDA is predicting that the ethanol plants will use about 4.9 billion bushels of corn. So we'll be roughly 500 million bushels of corn short over year. And the bigger news, though, is in the last probably 4 years, we've lost over 4 billion bushels of demand because of the fact that we're not using through the laws that were on the books. So if you take a look at what our carryover is today, and if we would have been able to keep that demand, we would have had very little carryover, and the prices would probably be a lot better today for corn than what they are.
This is me talking, not John Shudd, but I remember probably in the mid-'90s, $80, $90 a bushel. Then we started Then we started with ethanol. I mean, we started having ethanol plants come online in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it changed things. It changed things for the best. So I think it's safe to say we can't get along out here without ethanol anymore, can we?
No, because ethanol is a large part of our usage and how the corn market moves. And this year, though, we've had problems because of the COVID-19. And I just pulled some prices. And our local co-op on the March 1st, we had a local price of $3.63 a bushel. Today, that price is approximately $2.86.
Ouch.
So that's a 77-cent decline. And some of it is because of the COVID, because of the lost demand and loss of exports, because we're not sending corn out of country to China and whatever, you know. And China had that trade deal that we had, that the government had passed at the beginning of the year, that looked very favorable for farmers on both the soybean and the corn side. And the demand just is not materializing that quickly, especially on the corn side. And I know a lot of farmers were hoping that going into summer that we would see a uptick in the markets because of this China demand. That just did not happen. And it's not only because of the trade deal, but because of the COVID-19 and because of ethanol, the demand destruction in the ethanol, because we're just not...
Demand destruction, did you say?
Yes, because of we're not using the amount of ethanol blended with gasoline because of we're driving less, and so we're having less demand for gasoline, so they're tied together.
I see. Boy, the COVID thing has really screwed up a lot of things, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Boy, that how has that affected? How has the COVID virus affected your farm operation?
Well, the price, of course. Soybeans they've recovered fairly well, so we're not really from the first of March price until today. There's probably not over 10 or 15 cents difference in price, but that's largely due because of China coming back into the market and buying quite a few soybeans from us. The corn, though, has taken a dramatic hit. Like I said, it's close to 70 or 77 cents difference. And so you put that on a per acre basis, and we're just going to use, for a round number, 200 bushel to the acre, which farms in the past can yield. And so you're looking at right at $150 an acre loss in income. So that's a lot.
When I was a kid, farmers were happy to get 125
Yes.
bushels per acre, but man, they're happy now.
Yeah.
I mean, with numbers like that. I mean,
but
now 200 seems to be the norm.
Yes, but everything has gone up, you know, the prices of inputs and whatever. So even though it sounds like a big number and whatever, there isn't a lot of profit there, you know. So
what is the cost of production?
You know, Mike, I'm not going to sit there and give you a number. I'll be honest with you,
Okay.
because I'm not going to. You know, everybody's cost of production is different.
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there was kind of a general one, but April apparently was the bottom of the market.
Yes. It seems though like in April, that's when a lot of the ethanol plants had to shut down because they just had no place to go with ethanol. And so that was the low. They're coming back now. We're seeing ethanol plants coming back online. They're starting to make some money, so that's good. And so hopefully we can keep that trend going.
Is that one in Albert City still going?
Yes.
Okay.
They were shut down from probably the middle of March until the 1st of July.
Okay.
But they're back up and running, and so that's a positive sign.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So the ethanol plants in your area would be Albert City, and Emmitsburg has one, right?
Yes, Albert City, Emmitsburg, and then, of course, one here at Fort Dodge. So we have some very good ethanol outlets in our area.
Okay, all right. Is there a big price between what you can sell corn at the ethanol plants and what you can sell corn at the local elevators?
Right now, the difference isn't that great. It's probably less than a dime. A year ago, the spread was it got up to as high as 25 cents a bushel between the local elevator and the ethanol plants. So when the ethanol plants are making money, they are doing a good job of putting out a good bid for the farmer if he wants to use that as his outlet for marketing.
You know, in all small towns in Iowa, really, including Fort Dodge and, well, including Des Moines when you get right down to it, but most towns depend heavily on agriculture, and Pocahontas would be no exception. Where that's your address, isn't it, Pocahontas?
That's correct.
Has it affected the town? The COVID virus affected the town of Pocahontas much? I mean, have businesses closed or ag suppliers or?
Right now, there has not been any businesses that have closed. I know that it's been hard on them. The local, car dealerships, I know the number of vehicles that they've sold is down. We had our restaurants, of course, had to stay closed because of the COVID restrictions. But overall, they're reopening now. I think they're coming back. All we can hope for is that they're going to do well, because those are very integral parts of our community.
Yeah, they are. Like the Liberty Inn, that's pretty integral, isn't it? Is that place still going?
It changed hands.
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Eichler retired.
Yes, Mike.
Yeah.
After I don't know, probably close to 50 years. I was in
Gosh,
there.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it was a nice place. What's the name of it now?
Johnny's Grub and Pub. I think
Oh, really? They
Yes.
serve food now, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they have the home plate grill that's right alongside of it.
Oh, okay.
And then the bar. So very, very nice place.
Boy, I haven't been to Pokey in a long time. Long time. So, I didn't know any of those things. And is there anything where Bob's Bar used to be?
Gary Mell still is proprietor there and has a nice business. Nice place. Nice place to go into and very congenial.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and we're talking with John Shutt of Pocahontas County, who's with the Iowa corn growers there. The USDA is predicting a 10% reduction in corn usage by ethanol plants in the year 2020. What is driving that? I thought, you mentioned China a little while ago, and I thought that I had heard, and I could have been hallucinating, of course, but I thought that China had made a major grain purchase, a lot of corn within the last 2 months. Is that something you know about?
I don't know for sure if they have gotten a lot of corn. That was one of the things that was in that China trade agreement. It's if they can follow through and actually put the bushels on barges and get it over to China.
Yeah. What would you like to see happen in the next couple of months, other than a good harvest? How's your fields looking anyway?
Right now we're stressed. We haven't had a lot of good rains here in the month of July. It's kind of amazing because Highway 4 is kind of the split between having very nice corn and having stressed corn. South of Highway 3 and west, it's getting very dry. North of Highway 3, they had some good rains during July, and the crop still looks awfully good.
Okay, good. Are you expecting a good yield then?
South of Highway 3, it's going to start getting questionable because of the dryness.
South of 3?
Yes, south of 3. And north of 3, I think they're going to have a nice crop.
Most of your farm is north of 3, isn't it?
I'm about 50-50.
Are you?
Yeah.
What are you crop to soybean? I mean, corn to soybeans. What's the ratio there? You got a lot more corn in the ground than you do soybeans? Or?
No. Usually in our area, we usually stay about half and half, probably 55% corn, 45% beans. A little bit heavier corn, but not very much.
I know we're here to talk corn, but how is the bean market?
The bean market is holding up fairly well. It's around $8.40 a bushel today. So that's not fantastic, but it could be worse.
It could always be worse.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Could always be worse. Well, we really need to find some way to get through this coronavirus thing. It's hurting a lot of people.
Yeah. Well,
and it's been hurting a lot of people for a long time.
Yes, and the bad thing about it is on the livestock or on the ag sector, everything is intertwined. When we cut back on livestock production there in June or April and May, there was places where they had euthanized hogs and whatever, so the demand was down because they just couldn't slaughter them.
Right,
and
right.
We lost some exports also because of the COVID, because worldwide the whole economies are shutting down.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's going to take time, I think, to get everything back to where we'd like it.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see how long it takes.
I've never had any patience, Jane. I just never had it. So, I've done everything I could or everything asked of me. I wear masks where I'm supposed to, and I wash my hands a lot, and I don't get my hands around my eyes too much and all those things. And by golly, it seems no matter what we do, the sucker just keeps growing. And
yes.
Have there been a lot of covoid cases in Pokey or not?
I think our county is right at 112 cases.
Oh, really?
And
for the population, that's pretty good, really.
Yeah. Well, we have roughly 7,000 people in Pocahontas County, so whatever that amount, whatever that percentage is, I can't come up right offhand, but I think we've had 3 deaths, which is sad.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's always a bad thing. But hopefully this thing, if we can get it under control, especially this fall with the schools opening up and whatever, we need to get back to normal. Everybody needs
We do. Need to get back to work, need to get back to our lives and that sort of thing. John Shutt is with the corn growers, Iowa corn growers in Pocahontas County. And I'm John, I truly want to thank you and express my appreciation for coming in today. You're certainly welcome to come again.
I appreciate you inviting me, and thank you.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
It's exactly 3:30. The news is coming up.
This year, biology might be in a third-floor lab, or it might be in your own kitchen. But no matter where school happens for you, Staples has everything you need at amazing prices. From the latest tech and backpacks to hand sanitizer and notebooks. This week, Apple AirPods Pro are only $199. You save $50 and shop any of our convenient, safe options. In-store, curbside pickup, or order online. School on, save on at Staples. Ends 8/1/20. Limit 2 while supplies last. Curbside available in most stores.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. Lord's Cupboard of Fort Dodge is a food pantry whose mission is to feed the hungry in Fort Dodge and the surrounding areas. They're located in the office building at the First United Methodist Church at 127 North 10th Street. And their director, Joni Ham Olson, says this COVID-19 pandemic has presented some challenges and has forced them to make some changes to their normal operations.
We continue to see hundreds of families over the course of the month serving our clients out of the upstairs. So we have made a lot of changes trying to be able to serve as many people as possible during the week.
Joni would go on to say that one of the issues they are facing is getting the food they need to distribute.
We noticed that Iowa Food Bank in Des Moines, which is where we get a lot of our meats and also our canned goods, their supply has not been as diverse as it had been in the past.
She says that those supply issues are not limited just to the Food Bank of Iowa, but also with local retailers.
Local grocery stores. There are items that we were buying on a regular basis that we aren't able to get right now. They are not able to get from their warehouse. We have had to make some substitutions on some things that we normally buy just to be able to continue to offer our clients needed things.
To find out more about the Lord's Cupboard Fort Dodge and how you can donate to help them further their mission, call 515-576-7586 or email lordscupboardfd@gmail.com. A Kansas City law firm has now concluded its report on allegations of racial disparities in the University of Iowa football program. Radio Iowa's Todd Kim with more.
The report says the Iowa football program adheres to a philosophy that mandates conformity and discourages individualism. 45 current and 29 former players were among those interviewed by the law firm, and many felt the foundation of discipline allowed some coaches to bully and demean athletes, and many black players felt targeted.
In sports, Fort Dodge softball fell 5-1 in the state championship game last night to Cedar Rapids Kennedy. The Cougars would score 4 in the third on 4 hits from the top of their lineup. The Dodgers would get 1 in the third as Malia Lowry would score their lone run after reaching on a bunt single. Dodgers would lead 2 on base in the third. Kennedy would tack on another run in the fifth. Dodgers would get 2 hits from Malia Lowry, but managed just a total of 3 hits off University of Nebraska signee Kaylin Kinney. Jalen Adams, Haley Wills, and Martina Lowry all named to the all-tournament team for the Dodgers. With the loss, the Dodgers still had a history-making season, going to the state championship game for the first time in program history. They'll graduate 1 usual starter and a total of 2 seniors from this year's team, who finishes as regional champions, state runner-ups, and closed the season with a 28-4 record. In the 5A third-place game, Ankeny Centennial no trouble with Muscatine, 10-0. In the Class 4A state championship game, Winterset upset Carlisle 4-3 to win the state title. Winterset entered as the 7 seed in the tournament and upset number 2 West Delaware in the quarters 7-4. As 6 seed Dallas Center Grimes 2-1 and upset defending champion Carlisle 4-3 in the finals. Winterset's Lauren Carter with 4 hits on the night and 2 RBIs. In the third-place game in 4A, Dallas Center Grimes a winner 8-4 over North Scott. Championship games on the agenda today. The 1A state championship at 7:30 tonight. The nightcap, Collins Maxwell, the number 1 seed, takes on Clarksville. In Class 2A, the Ogden Bulldogs will play for the state championship. They're the 3 seed. They'll play at 5 o'clock, taking on undefeated number 1 seed North Lynn. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn up a quarter penny at $3.16. December up a quarter cent at $3.27. March unchanged at $3.38 1/4, and May up a quarter penny at $3.46. August soybeans up 5 3/4 at $8.97 1/2. September up 3 1/2 cents at $8.90 1/4. November up 4 1/4 at $8.92 1/2, and January beans up 4 1/4 at $8.98. September wheat closed up 1 3/4 at $5.31 1/4. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at $2.8930. August live cattle up $1.10 at $102.82. October up $1.12 at $107.87. August feeder cattle up $1.65 at $144.67. September up $1.80 to close at $146.22. August lean hogs up 57 cents at $52, and October up $1.30 at $49.62. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. Lord's Cupboard of Fort Dodge is a food pantry whose mission is...
Fish oil supplements. What are they good for? Hi, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. First of all, consult with your healthcare provider. Any fish oil supplements. High doses of fish oil can cause excessive bleeding. According to WebMD, the healthy fatty acids in fish oils are effective for reducing high triglycerides in the blood that are associated with heart disease and untreated diabetes. They are likely effective in preventing heart disease in people who are free of heart disease, and they may lower the risk of dying in people who already have heart disease. WebMD says fish oil is possibly effective for reducing high blood pressure, treating rheumatoid arthritis, diminishing menstrual pain, helping children with ADHD better focus, reduce the risk of stroke and hardening of the arteries, and improve the rate of bone loss and increase bone density. Fish oil capsules contain DHA and EPA, the fatty acids from fatty fish, especially salmon, mackerel, and tuna. But the amount of DHA and EPA in a 1,000 milligram capsule may only contain 300 milligrams of the two combined. Fish oil supplements should be from harvested cold water fish and processed by established companies who certify their products are free from heavy metals. University of Missouri Extension nutritionist Tammy Roberts says it may just be easier to eat fatty fish twice a week to receive health benefits. I'm Julie Harker.
Right now, we all might feel a little disconnected. For seniors living alone with smaller social circles, feelings of loneliness and isolation can feel overwhelming. But there's something we can all do to help. Connect with your older loved one virtually and have the conversation of a lifetime with StoryCorps Connect. Anyone can conduct an interview, and every interview will be archived at the Library of Congress, becoming part of American history. Connect, honor, share at StoryCorpsConnect.org/AARP. A message from AARP, StoryCorps, and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. That's right. They can help save lives by simply washing their hands. Just 20 seconds of thorough hand washing after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside can help fight against the dastardly spread of germs. Armed with only soap and water and hands, your superhero can protect you, your family, and everyone out there in America land. Amazing! Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor, brought to you by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing emergencies don't usually happen during normal business hours, so Riley Armstrong is here for you 24/7. Call 955-2232. And the Fort Museum in Frontier Village, where history comes alive. Travel back in time and celebrate the heritage of Fort Dodge at the Fort Museum. Book your next special event at the Opera House, too. When severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
On this edition of the Iowa Business Report.
In terms of Iowa, we actually do find that the return to education for Iowa is relatively low compared to the rest of the nation.
How much you make depends in part on education, but even more on where you live. An Iowa State researcher shares his findings. Details on how one employer is trying to keep the workplace safe when team members return. And you'll learn about an Iowa business bringing the latest technology to farm fields. This is the Iowa Business Report for the first weekend of August 2020.
The Iowa Business Report is presented with support from the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. The Iowa Association of Business and Industry has been the voice of Iowa business since 1903. Learn more online at iowaabi.org. Here is Jeff Stein.
Last week on this program, we introduced you to a new survey commissioned by the Thomas B. Fordham Institute titled What You Make Depends on Where You Live: College Earnings Across States and Metropolitan Areas. The national study was conducted by an Iowa State University Associate Professor of Economics, Dr. John Winters. We spoke about his findings and what they tell us about education and assumptions.
We're interested in education and thinking about, well, should young people invest in education? Why do they invest in education, and what kind of education should they? But we don't always give enough emphasis to the where. Where should they invest in education, and where are they going to work? My background actually is kind of in regional labor economics. I'm very interested in the where, how the where interacts with labor outcomes. And I've done some other research to help me think about this for a while. But the question is, okay, well, if I go and get a college degree or get a specific educational credential, what's the result going to be? What's the return? What's the benefit going to be? Certainly location does matter.
There is a disparity between rural and urban. Explain why that may be and how Iowa fits into the national average or norms with regard to that metric.
So one of the things that we're seeing is the return to, say, a college degree is actually much higher in larger metropolitan areas, and it's smaller in rural areas. For example, if you go up to New York, the return to a college degree is better than, say, in Iowa. Part of that, it has to do with the job opportunities. There's certain jobs that are available in big cities that just aren't available in smaller areas. And so that's certainly one element. If you want to take it to the rural areas, certainly there's opportunities, say, in healthcare and education and some types of jobs, but certainly, some of those opportunities just aren't there. In terms of Iowa, we actually do find that the return to education for Iowa is relatively low compared to the rest of the nation. It's still a good investment, though. I don't want to undersell it. Education is still a pretty good deal in terms of the increased earnings power relative to high school, but it's not as high as many other states.
Is there a factor of cost of living in there? Because obviously, if there's a job in a major, shall we say, northeastern city, my presumption is the cost of living there is higher than it might be in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Waterloo, or any other Iowa metro area.
Yeah, absolutely. And cost of living is actually something we thought a lot about, and it's actually kind of difficult to fully account for. Part of what we do is we're talking about the college earnings premium, so we end up comparing really the relative earnings for a college graduate relative to high school, and we also do some analysis with associates or people with some mid-level credentials. If you think about, the college-educated worker has to pay the cost of living and the high school-educated worker has to pay the cost of living, then in some ways it kind of nets out. Both, whether you're high school education or college, has to pay the higher cost of living. So we focus on kind of the relative income differential. That means, are you thinking about where you should live or whether or not you should invest in education? Certainly those things might differ. You're absolutely right. You go to many larger cities, especially on the coast, the cost of living is higher. So, there's a lot of young people from the Midwest and other areas that are less expensive that say, hey, I'm actually getting a pretty good deal here, even though I'm not making as much money. The cost of living's lower. Maybe the amenities are ones that I really enjoy and appreciate. So, it is a pretty good deal in the lower cost of living area for many people.
What I found interesting when I looked at the Iowa numbers, if I'm interpreting the chart correctly, there was very little difference between high school educated, those with some college, those with an associate's degree. Very little difference in income. The jump came between those levels and those with a four-year degree, something like a $20,000 per year difference, which is no small amount, but then you also have to pay for the college education in there too. Did that track consistently in other states? In other words, was Iowa's numbers, as I've just represented them, similar to other states, or were we kind of out on an island somewhere?
No, what you're describing is correct, and certainly there's some variation across states in that, in terms of the jump between less than four-year credentials and then the four-year degree. I would say if you compared Iowa to more similar states, I think you kind of see, somewhat similar pattern there. And part of that, quite honestly, is it may have to do with the type of two-year degrees that people are investing in. We also, like I said, do have some analysis of people that don't even have a two-year degree, but they have some other college education, which is actually a difficult group to really classify because it includes people that have like a specific credential or specific like educational license. And also some people that, maybe started a program, maybe they have 3.5 years of college or, however many and didn't actually earn a degree. But you're right that we do see that pattern where, at least in Iowa, you don't see a big jump until you get to the four-year degree. And that's true in a lot of other states too. If you expect to want to live in a rural area the rest of your life, think about what are the job opportunities and is that four-year degree going to help me get a good job or start a business? If you're willing to move to a little larger metro area, even within your state, certainly that does open up more doors. I still would say, we haven't talked about college major much. You still want to be mindful, and unfortunately, we don't dive into that in this particular study. There's some other studies out there. The college major you pursue does affect your earnings as well. So obviously, some degrees, provide more like STEM skills and economic skills, financial skills that maybe help you get a job that is going to be higher paying, whereas others, you may not start off, other majors, you may not start off with the same salary. So certainly keep in mind that there's still plenty of variation even within what we're looking at here.
That's all very appropriate to point out because it's not just a binary choice between high school and four-year degree. There are plenty of options in there with plenty of jobs, and maybe that is kind of the takeaway to some degree. So many of our K-12 schools are programmed, if you will, to suggest one path, and that is college, four-year college degree, and that isn't for everyone.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree with that. And certainly, I think it's tough because when we try to think about, should high schools be more involved, in vocational education, technical education? Part of the challenge with that is that we often don't really know, what are the technical skills that people are going to need 10 years from now, 20 years from now? I think a lot of schools would like to help, students with that. To some extent, we know that math and reading and sending people to college, we have a better idea of, at least from the educational, K-12 education, we have a better idea how we can prepare them for that. Obviously, there's some room for improvement, but we have, I think, if we think about high school, if that's going to be the end and we're going to do career and technical education, then we really have to get it right. We really have to make sure that we're getting them the right skills. Like I said, there's not necessarily a ton of confidence that we know what the right skills are.
Well, that's an excellent point. And I don't mean to be flip, but 2 + 2 is going to equal 4. We know math. We may not know the technological innovations that would lead welding to be very different today than it was 30 years ago. Let me ask you finally, you obviously had an interest in this. You obviously had some thoughts about what you might find. What surprised you the most as you compiled this data across the country?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things that was kind of discouraging, I've done enough work on this related stuff before that I knew, as far as we also do some analysis looking at differences by race and ethnicity. So we kind of knew that, there's going to be some gaps. So blacks and Hispanics we expected would have lower earnings than whites. But one of the things that was maybe particularly discouraging is that the college earnings premium, there's still a premium across all racial ethnic groups that we examined. But the premium is a lot smaller for those minority groups. And so that's really kind of an open question. Like I said, it was kind of surprising that the college earnings premium was not as significant for those groups. Like I said, kind of surprising and kind of discouraging, and certainly something that I'm interested in thinking about for the future research. And hopefully, maybe some other people have even greater ideas about.
Dr. John Winters, Associate Professor of Economics at Iowa State University. We spoke via Zoom on July 14th. The full report can be viewed at FordhamInstitute.org. Still to come, rules for returning to work and merging drone technology with planting of cover crops. You're listening to the Iowa Business Report.
During this challenging and unprecedented time, Gunderson's is here to serve with expert guidance and understanding to each family and their unique needs. We provide options for funeral, cremation, memorial, virtual, and webcast services, either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Iowa's manufacturers have shown pride and commitment during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Mike Ralston of the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. Whether retooling their plants to make face shields, masks, and other needed supplies, or providing pay and benefits for workers during a slow economic time, these businesses are the foundation of our recovery. Learn more at iowaabi.org.
The Iowa Business Report is a copyrighted production of Totally Iowa Media, which is solely responsible for its content. For more, click on the radio programs button at totallyiowa.com.
No doubt your workplace has undergone some changes since the COVID-19 pandemic began earlier this year. It may include wearing a mask, limiting travel, putting up physical barriers, and more. Every business is different, and how each business handles things varies. Some workplaces are requiring that returning workers sign off on an Acknowledgement of Responsibility form. The form starts by the employer pledging to put health and safety of the employees first and to take various steps to minimize the risk of contracting COVID-19. But no workplace is virus-free, and it wasn't before the pandemic. the employer asks employees to help in safety efforts by requiring the employee to take his or her temperature every day and to not come to work if the temperature is above normal. And if it reaches 100.4 degrees, to not return to work until 14 days after a return to normal. The employee is not to come to work if he or she has had contact with anyone exposed to COVID-19 for 14 days after that contact. The employee is not to report to work if he or she has traveled to any country or area subject to a COVID travel restriction within the previous month. Social distancing is also required, which they define as 25 feet from a coworker, and if closer than 25 feet, a mask must be worn. Regular hand washing is required, as is regular sanitizing of each employee's work area. And, of course, the employee is not to report if he or she is exhibiting common COVID-19 symptoms, in addition to fever that might include a cough, shortness of breath, loss of smell and or taste, fatigue, muscle aches, chills, shaking, and or persistent headaches. Now, this acknowledgement that I've shared with you is from one employer based outside of Iowa. It's just an example, but it points out the need for clarity between both the employer and the employee about expectations given these unique times. It's a difficult conversation for some to have, but better to have it now than when it's too late. Coming up, putting technology to work on the farm. You're listening to the Iowa Business Report.
Another reason to reassess weed management. Hello, I'm Ken Anderson with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. University of Tennessee Extension weed scientist Larry Steckel says they've confirmed dicamba-resistant Palmer amaranth in Tennessee, where the dicamba-tolerant Extend trade has dominated cotton and soybean acreage for several years. Now, Steckel says there's no reason to panic, but he says there is good reason to reassess weed management. We'll hear from Larry Steckel right after this.
Imagine a generation.
A generation of respect.
Of acceptance. Of diversity.
A generation that leads together.
A generation that learns together. A generation that plays together. This is our generation.
Special Olympics athletes are leading a revolution of inclusion.
Proving we are better together.
If inclusion is your thing, let us know.
Sign the Inclusion Pledge at jointherevolution.org.
Hi, I'm Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. If there's one thing I've learned after years on the track, it's that having the right amount of pressure in your tires can make or break performance. Properly inflated tires are essential to the health of your car and to keep you driving safely. Check your tire pressure once a month, especially before road trips, or stop by your neighborhood tire retailer for help.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Greenhouse trials and replicated field trials confirmed dicamba-resistant Palmer amaranth in Tennessee. This isn't the first reported case of dicamba resistance. Kansas State researchers found resistance issues in 2019 in one of their research plots. But University of Tennessee Extension weed scientist Larry Steckel says this is the first case of dicamba-resistant pigweed populations being widespread enough to disrupt farmers' operations and force a change in their weed management. Steckel says the dicamba resistance is currently categorized as low. He says it has a rating of 2.5, which indicates weeds can survive up to 2.5 times the labeled dicamba use rates. But Steckel tells Brownfield it is concerning because the number of tools available to farmers to control weeds is dwindling.
Yeah, the tools are becoming very limited, and really, with Palmer amaranth, we're to the raggedy edge now on having effective herbicides that are going to manage it, especially here in the North Delta. You talk to my colleagues in Arkansas, Dr. Tom Barber and Jason Norsworthy over at the University of Arkansas, and they got some concerns about some Liberty not controlling their Palmer as well. You get to my side of the river, and we've got concerns now with dicamba and even 2,4-D not being as effective as they were just a few years ago. That's not a good combination. That's what we got left in the toolbox to control these post-emergence. So, to me, the one word going forward is we've got to steward these herbicides that we've got left to get some shelf life on them till we get something new, because we're going to need something new sooner rather than later now.
And Steckel says with increasing resistance concerns, farmers are going to have to look beyond the herbicide for more solutions.
Doing things you don't pour out of a jug is going to be more and more important. You used to have to do them 20 years ago. Narrow row widths would be one. Cover crops in places, tillage where appropriate would be another good avenue. Getting the cultivators maybe back out. If you got just a spot of a pigweed out there that's gotten through dicamba, go out there and yank it. That can be easier said than done, and drill beans in the middle of July when it's 100. But little things like that can buy us some time, and doing those type of things are very important.
That's University of Tennessee Extension weed scientist Larry Steckel. That's Managing for Profit on Brownfield Ag News for America.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
More from the Iowa Almanac in a moment.
Though many Iowans have been working from home lately, roughly 80% of Iowa's workforce has still been reporting for duty as normal. I'm Mike Ralston of the Iowa Association of Business and Industry, inviting you to join me in thanking Iowa's manufacturers, healthcare workers, and first responders for their efforts during the pandemic. Working together, Iowa will be back soon, stronger than ever.
New York had Woodstock. Iowa had Wadena. Some 30,000 people attended the three-day music festival. Coming as it did just a year after Woodstock, some Iowans were not too happy about the event, which did feature open use of drugs and drug sales, and a fair amount of young people skinny dipping in a pond. Johnny Winter, REO Speedwagon, Little Richard, Iowa's Everly Brothers, and Mason Prophet were among those who performed.
Walk on down the road, your hair blowing free.
Complaints went all the way to Iowa Governor Robert Ray, who showed up at the site on the first day, July 31st, and after being satisfied that adequate preparations had been made regarding health and safety, told the participants to have a good time. This came after Iowa Attorney General Richard Turner had gotten an injunction signed by an Iowa Supreme Court justice to block the event a few days before. The partygoers did not cause much trouble for the locals, but they did leave a lot of garbage behind that took a lot of cleaning up. The event was voted the top news story in Iowa that year by the Associated Press. The three-day Wadena Rock Festival began on this date in 1970. And that's Iowa Almanac for July 31st. Follow us on Twitter at Iowa Almanac. I'm Jeff Stein.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
Blame them on Lisa Brady, Fox News. That's what each side is saying about the other, with no agreement in sight on a new coronavirus relief package, hours before extra unemployment benefits expire.
The idea of a comprehensive coronavirus relief bill, a so-called Phase 4 bill, appears to be off the table right now. What the White House and Republicans in the Senate are trying to work on is a smaller measure that would continue enhanced unemployment for people, and as well as eviction protection for those who are really hit hard by the coronavirus crisis.
Fox's John Roberts at the White House. We're hearing now that House Speaker Pelosi, Senate Democratic Leader Schumer, the Treasury Chief, and the White House Chief of Staff plan to meet again in the morning for more talks. California just reporting its first death of a child from COVID, a teenager in the Central Valley. The death sentence for Boston Marathon bomber Johar Tsarnaev is vacated by a federal appeals court over pretrial publicity.
Tsarnaev's lawyer argued his client was denied an impartial jury when the trial court prohibited him from asking jurors about their exposure to pretrial publicity. Many of the charges for which Tsarnaev was convicted were upheld by the appeals court, but on those death-eligible counts, the court ordered a new penalty phase trial. Tsarnaev could again be sentenced to death, but the government must first decide whether it wants to pursue capital punishment. In Washington, John Decker, Fox News.
Tsarnaev's brother died in a confrontation with police after the 2013 bombing, which killed 3 people and wounded over 200. The FBI confirming 3 suspects in the Twitter hack that stole high-profile users' identities, then used them to get other victims to send Bitcoin. One of the suspects, a Florida teenager, accused of masterminding the scheme. Another suspect from Florida and one from Britain, also facing felony charges. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dialed text from Pure Talk USA.
Progressive Motorcycle presents Road Wisdom from the Motor.
Half man, half motorcycle.
You grab life with both hands. And you grab your bike with both hands.
Both hands.
Therefore, bike is life.
Figuratively speaking.
Progressive Motorcycle also presents Roadside Assistance. Progressive Motorcycle, for those who were born to ride. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
8 U.S. Marines remain missing off the California coast after an accident that killed at least 1 Marine last night.
The amphibious assault vehicle was carrying 15 U.S. Marines and a Navy medic. It sank during a training exercise. 2 Marines were hospitalized. 1 remains in critical condition. The Marines at Camp Pendleton said 2 Marines were transported to local hospitals, 1 in critical condition, the other in stable condition. 15 Marines and 1 sailor were inside the vehicle at the time of the incident, 8 of whom have now been recovered.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin. The search continues for the others. Parts of Florida under a hurricane watch.
Cat 1 Isaias is right now over the Bahamas, and hurricane hunters who just flew through the system say it is getting better organized. At minimum, strong tropical storm impacts are anticipated for Miami and Fort Lauderdale late tonight and into tomorrow morning. And then by Sunday morning, the eye of the storm should be due east of us here on the Space Coast.
Fox's Phil Keating. A possible landfall early next week in North Carolina's Outer Banks. Director Alan Parker has died.
The British writer, director, and 2-time Oscar nominee directed 14 feature films, among them Midnight Express.
Are you yourself a member of the Ku Klux Klan? No.
Mississippi Burning.
Just a couple of little crazy Philly kids.
And Birdie. Parker never doted on one genre of film. He skipped through several, from action and drama to comedy and musicals like Bugsy Malone, and dramatic musicals like Fame, The Commitments, and Evita. In 2013, Parker received the British film industry's highest honor, the Academy Fellowship. In 2015, Parker announced that he was through with the movie business. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
Alan Parker was 76. He died after a lengthy illness. A late rally on Wall Street, both the Dow and the NASDAQ finished up more than 100 points. Elisa Brady, Fox News.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. Lord's Cupboard of Fort Dodge is a food pantry whose mission is to feed the hungry in Fort Dodge and the surrounding areas. They're located in the office building at the First United Methodist Church at 127 North 10th Street. And their director, Joni Ham Olson, says this COVID-19 pandemic has presented some challenges and it's forced them to make some changes to their normal operations.
We continue to see hundreds of families over the course of the month serving our clients out of the upstairs. So we have made a lot of changes trying to be able to serve as many people as possible during the week.
Joni would go on to say that one of the issues they are facing is getting the food they need to distribute.
We noticed that Iowa Food Bank in Des Moines, which is where we get a lot of our meats and also our canned goods, their supply has not been as diverse as it had been in the past.
She says that those supply issues are not limited just to the Food Bank of Iowa, but also with local retailers.
Local grocery stores. There are items that we were buying on a regular basis that we aren't able to get right now. They are not able to get from their warehouse. We have had to make some substitutions on some things that we normally buy just to be able to continue to offer our clients needed things.
To find out more about the Lord's Cupboard Fort Dodge and how you can donate to help them further their mission, call 515-576-7586 or email lordscupboardfd@gmail.com. A Kansas City law firm has now concluded its report on allegations of racial disparities in the University of Iowa football program. Radio Iowa's Todd Kim with more.
The report says the Iowa football program adheres to a philosophy that mandates conformity and discourages individualism. 45 current and 29 former players were among those interviewed by the law firm, and many felt the foundation of discipline allowed some coaches to bully and demean athletes, and many black players felt targeted.
Iowa Corn Growers Association District 2 Director Stu Swanson and his family from Wright County have been named the winners of the 2020 Gary Workin Good Farm Neighbor Award. Their farm is a third-generation farm located near Clarion. The award was presented to the Swanson family at their farm by Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with highs around 81. North winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 56. Tonight, clear skies. Mainly sunny. Tomorrow, chance for isolated thunderstorms, 86. Upper 70s Sunday and Monday with a chance for scattered thunderstorms Sunday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 82.
Summer is the perfect time to tackle those indoor projects on your list, like escaping the heat and refreshing your home with new paint. Lowe's has you covered with our #1 best-selling color, Agreeable Gray, and accent colors like Snowbound and Retreat. Plus, you can get Valspar's dual scrub and stain-resistant Ultra Interior Paint Plus Primer starting at just $24.98 a gallon every day. For ideas and inspiration, download the Lowe's app and discover what's possible. U.S. only.
Michael Devine, Nevin Mulholland, and Randy Kuhlman talking sports at AM 1400 KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth, of course, and it's Friday, so we must be talking sports once again with Randy Kuhlman and Nevin Mulholland. How's it going today, guys?
It's good, right? Michael.
It's all good?
All good, man.
Well, boy, hats off to the Dodger girls. I tell you, what a season they had.
Yep.
What a performance they put in all year long and in last night's game. But those Cedar Rapids girls must have been on fire.
Well, the pitcher, she's going to Nebraska.
Yeah.
She was by far the best pitcher at the state tournament.
You saw the game live, didn't you?
I watched Kennedy play twice, and no one could touch her. And the Dodgers had 3 hits last night, and 2 of them were bunts. So we could not – and that wasn't unusual because she was shutting everybody down, and that was the difference in the ball game. The Dodgers played – really well. Jalen Adams threw extremely well. It was fun to watch the Dodgers. They made some amazing defensive plays in the field, especially
their strength, I think.
In the semifinal game. There were some tremendous defensive plays made by those girls, and and we've talked about this before in years past. But softball is a game that girls can get really skilled at.
I think it's their best game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
think it's a great game to watch.
It is. It's a terrific game to watch.
And the skill that you saw from the Dodgers as well as a lot of the other teams out there was just amazing. And it was a great tournament, great venue, and to my surprise, I thought maybe COVID would keep the crowds down, but that was not the case. There was a lot
not in a
of
game
people.
like this. I'm
but
sure
it wasn't just the Dodger game. I mean, Humboldt brought half the town for that Humboldt game against Mount Vernon in the first round. I mean, I haven't seen the stats yet on the number of people that came to watch the games, but I'm sure it was
first
pretty
couple
darn
days.
good.
I think they're trailing, but not by a lot.
No.
Pretty impressive numbers, all things considered.
I had a bad feeling for the Dodger girls in the first inning. Kennedy got 2 girls on base like that. They had 2 on base, 1 out. And if not for a terrific defensive play,
right.
A double play, they would have scored certainly in the first inning.
Yeah.
And they had that big 4th inning, of course. And after the 4th inning, it got a little painful for me to listen to, really. I hate to – I was so excited for the girls, but
It's like anything in baseball, as you know, Mike. If you're not hitting the ball and getting on base, it's painful to be a fan because it's frustrating, and the girls were frustrated too. But that Kennedy pitcher just was shutting everybody down.
Yeah, I think I listen. As it played out, the two best teams played in the state
championship
game.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and Kennedy was the better team. It sounds like,
Yeah.
And Rob kind of alerted us to that last week when we talked with him. He said, "Listen, Kennedy's a team they're going to struggle with. Otherwise, they're match up pretty well." And that's kind of the way it played out, wasn't it, Randy?
Yeah, it was. They had an easy game against Bettendorf, and then the game they had with Ankeny Centennial was a fantastic softball game because there were just every inning there was one or two outstanding defensive plays. There was plays that would stop a rally. I mean, it was a lot of excitement. It was played on one of those smaller mini diamonds, and that place was surrounded by people.
Hey, how did that work out with the mini diamonds? What was your take on that?
They called it the Dodger Diamond. That's the two the one game that the Dodgers played on, and there's kind of a stadium effect to that diamond. So it was a kind of fun place to watch softball. You were actually. So it worked out fine. I mean, obviously there was issues with Rob and the radio station there, but
we're going to hear from Rob Jones a little bit later on. He's pretty frustrated.
But the actual diamond itself, they were having a little problem because that diamond is more of a clay type diamond.
I was wondering the surface and
the
stuff.
The surface was getting loosened up and dusty and soft, and so between innings they had about 8 guys out there pounding down between every inning, pounding down the dirt on the diamond to keep it pounded down and solid because it was getting chewed up a little bit. That's probably, I think, maybe the only complaint people had, and we heard that Ankeny was complaining, but I mean, Ankeny complains about everything.
Bunch of whiners down there in Centennial.
If they had beat the Dodgers, they probably wouldn't have complained.
What were they complaining about?
Well, that they got stuck on that diamond. Well, the number one ranked team in the state in Fort Dodge had to play there too.
Going very far.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see if the Dodgers are playing on the big diamonds for all 3 games, but they're playing the Dodgers on this diamond. It's hardly worthy complaint there.
So I give kudos to the Fort Dodge staff that took care of the diamonds, and the venue. The venue was outstanding again.
Weather wasn't bad.
The weather was great. A little hot in the afternoons, but at night it cooled off. But it's everything went extremely well from a standpoint of managing the tournament, except I guess obviously the media had some concerns with
local
things.
Media, specifically Rob.
And the biggest complaint that I heard everybody talking about, including myself, was that they made a decision not in the main 2 diamonds not to let fans go into the stands behind home plate, which is a good size bleachers.
It is.
And they did it because and I don't know if it was for social distancing or for the media. I don't know what it was, but so that forced everybody to be even more crowded together because those stands weren't being utilized. I thought that was unfortunately a decision by the state association was a mistake. And I know a lot of other people felt the same way because it forced the fans for both teams then to have to crowd into the bleachers on the side. And then even in the outfield, a lot of people out there. And huge crowd. The Dodgers, great season. And Fort Dodge really turned out for the girls' team. And it was a great venue last night.
There must have been some reason that they did that behind home plate, but they're not telling us as of yet.
The 2 reasons I heard was social distancing, which had the exact opposite effect.
I was going to say that.
And then secondly, somebody else said, well, the media was concerned about social distancing, so they wanted to be spread out. And so they gave that whole area to the media, and they got the media behind, down below too. So they had it down there. Then they had the whole bleachers and the press box. So I mean, how much media space do you need? I don't know, but
it's okay. We need to keep the media safe.
Yeah, right.
Everybody else.
I don't think that.
To heck with everybody else.
To heck with everybody else. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're so special.
I'm hoping Rob stays healthy.
We're so special.
I think they left him out of the equation, though, because that guy looks like a tomato.
He does.
Oh, my
he
Lord.
Really
Is he
does.
burned up.
That was from the Centennial game, and then last night's game polished him off. But the way he was treated out there, and again, he'll be in here a little bit later on. But he's pretty steamed about the way the Girls Athletic Association treated the one local broadcaster in the whole area. I mean, Cedar Rapids TV was there. That's fine. Iowa Public Television was there. Great. There was probably a Des Moines radio station there, or not radio station, but television station as well. I don't know. You were there, Randy. Did you happen to notice that or not?
Well, the teams from their various the teams that were playing usually had a radio crew there.
Sure.
So there was 2 of those, and then I think there might have been, Iowa Public Television was there, and I don't know who else was there, but there was always 2 or 3 radio stations broadcasting the games, and so it was a great tournament, and like Nevin was saying, the top 2 teams, because the Jaguars Centennial played in the consolation game and beat Muscatine by 10-run rule. I think it was.
Well, badly, yeah. I don't know if it's 9-0
I watched a little bit of that game, and it was 8-0 when I quit watching it.
I was thinking it went 9-0, but
was it 9-0? So
but it was they.
So it just goes to show you that the Dodgers had to beat a tough Ankeny Centennial team in a great game, and
which I was a little surprised that Centennial beat Waukee. I thought that was because it looked like Waukee had that game under control and had swept Centennial during the year.
Yep.
And, Waukee's been there, done that.
Yeah.
And Centennial not so much,
right.
in softball.
Right. And then the big upset, too, early on was Muscatine beating Des Moines Valley in the first
Valley
round.
was the biggie. You're right.
And
that
Valley was
big.
a 3 seed, and Muscatine was, 6?
I don't think Muscatine scored again the
no,
rest of the week.
No, I don't think they did either.
Muscatine,
of course, they had to play Kennedy the next game and got shut out. And then got shut out by the Jaguars, the Ankeny Centennial. So, but it was a great tournament. And here's the good news for the Dodgers: 8 and 9 starters are coming back.
That's great news. Is Andy Adams' daughter coming back?
She's just a sophomore.
Oh, just a sophomore.
Yeah. And
wow,
and I give kudos to her and all those pitchers, because they're pitching 3 games in a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and really pitched well. And so
and only being a sophomore,
yeah,
I mean it's a lot of pressure. And it's tough. I mean, this is a season she's been pitching in this since 8th grade in these type of situations, but still, it's. To have the composure and the confidence as a sophomore to be able to excel at that level in those circumstances, pretty impressive.
That was very impressive. I'm very impressed with the character of those girls.
Oh, yeah.
Very strong and very competitive. And, a guy my age, I seem to remember things that happened 50 years ago more than what I had for breakfast this morning. But I mentioned
I'm with you.
I've mentioned and we've talked about it before on this show that the way young women's sports are today, it sure isn't 6-girl basketball. That attitude is gone. These young women are very, very intense athletes, and they can handle defeat. They can handle a huge disappointment like the girls experienced last night.
Yeah, there's a lot of heartbreak in these tournaments.
There's
only one winner, and
that's educational in itself.
Yeah,
right. I'm a big believer of sports as an educational.
But if you haven't watched girls softball, you need to go out and watch good girls softball, because these girls are really skilled. It's really amazing the plays.
It's really a good game.
It is.
It's set up perfectly.
Yeah.
And frankly, this sounds like heresy, but I think it's good high school girls softball is more entertaining to watch, frankly, than good high school men's baseball.
It's a faster game.
It moves faster, and
game.
it really does. It
it is.
Baseball is a slower moving game at the high school, at all levels, frankly, but at the high school for boys, that girls game, that rocks. I mean, there's a lot of action, and it moves quick, and I think it's that and good girls volleyball are the 2 games that are very fun to watch with women.
They are entertaining. And the thing is, I don't know how many in the state. There's a lot of girls softball players that get D1 scholarships around the state. I mean, the pitcher from Kennedy's going to Nebraska. There was
Sorry about that.
There was a gal from one of the gals that was from Carlisle's going to Iowa. There's another one going to the shortstop from Valley, who is a stud. She's going to Missouri. I mean, I bet you there's a dozen girls around the state of Iowa that are going D1 somewhere to play softball. I mean, it's
Well, Rob mentioned to me off the air before we went on that there were a lot of college coaches that are looking at Jalen and think that she will get to the level of the Kennedy pitcher by the time she's a senior.
Yeah.
They say she's on that kind of track.
Right.
I never hear about Iowa State or the University of Iowa. Do they have softball?
Yeah.
Do they both?
They both do.
But
Iowa's program's been down for quite a while. Although Iowa, the Fort Dodge, Jamie Killian's daughter
played there.
She played for Iowa.
Did she?
Played for the Dodgers and then went to Iowa and had a good career at Iowa. But Iowa's girls softball has been down for a number of years, and Iowa State is you don't hear much about it.
No, you don't.
You really don't.
I read the sports section every morning, and I pay attention to.
Of course, they didn't play this spring, so you didn't.
Right.
Anything.
Well, not this year.
Yeah.
But I have kind of a long history with women's softball. My wife, God rest her soul, she was All-State honorable mention when she was in high school. She was a really good third baseman. And my daughter-in-law pitched for St. Edmunds. She still has a wicked fastball.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you, you should go to a women's game, softball game, just to see how fast those young girls can throw that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that whip action they have, underhanded pitch, that's nasty business there.
It's on top of you pretty quick.
It's on top of you. Really.
Because you got to field it and get out of your glove quick because it's a what are those? Are they 60-foot bases?
I thought
60-foot bases, in softball. So
everything about it.
And if you get a fast girl up to bat, man, they're tough to get out because they knock that thing on the ground and take off and run and beat it out. It's a fast, quick game.
Yeah, well, another thing that's gone is you run like a girl because those girls run like sprinters. They run like sprinters. There. Uh-oh. All right, now we're going to get the word. Now we're going to have a come to Jesus moment right here. Rob Jones has joined us, and he's ready.
I can't even look at him.
I don't know if
cannot look at him.
That's not from the sun.
Yeah, well, I don't know what.
But good morning there, Rob. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me. Hey, Randy. Hey, Nevin. How you guys doing?
So you didn't have a good time last night at the game or what?
Well, I had a good time at the game, but I did have some difficulties with the athletic union here. There was a lot of logistical issues and things of that nature, and so we did the game last night from the bleachers instead of media row, which was challenging. I mean, a lot of folks probably don't understand a lot of the logistics that go into that. And Evan, you've been in that situation. You do understand
so
that.
Frustrating, and it's so hard. And I take my hat off to you for hanging in there and calling the game as well as you did under the circumstance.
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
We sold the game. We said it was sponsored.
It wasn't easy, but we're going to get the game on. Show's going to go on no matter what we have to do in that situation. And, that yesterday was coupled with the semifinal game being on one of the secondary fields and being out in kind of the heat there. And, which I'm not complaining personally about that as much as, radio equipment's sensitive to heat. Mm-hmm. When you put radio equipment in 95-degree heat in the middle of July, you're going to have some issues with that, and we did, and we dealt with that, and we dealt with the logistical issues of that too. And a lot of folks don't know I stood on a chair at an angle for the last couple of innings of the semifinal game, so it was adventures in broadcasting this week from the state tournament for sure. So it was a little different deal.
What stuck out most about last night's game in your?
Well, the pitching for Cedar Rapids Kennedy, Kaylin Kinney was absolutely amazing. University of Nebraska is getting her in a few weeks. She'll be on campus. I mean, she was dominant. Not only was she throwing really hard. She also had a lot of movement, a lot of late movement, which is when you're throwing that hard, that's almost impossible at that point. And also had some good off-speed stuff. I mean, she gets you sitting on a 68, 70-mile-an-hour fastball and then throw a changeup in there on you. And, so it was a difficult go for Fort Dodge, but certainly doesn't negate the fact that they had a history-making season and an incredible run and made it for the first time to the state finals. You can't undo that fact. And Cedar Rapids Kennedy, I mean, I'll tip my cap. They were the better team last night. And had 6 seniors that are going to play at some level of college that have signed. So I believe, really, Nevin, I think Cedar Rapids Kennedy, it was their year this year, but I think Fort Dodge should be able to step into that role in the future.
Yeah, it looks like they're positioned. I think the big thing for the Dodgers was to get through that first round. You know what I mean? They hadn't done that for a long time. And once you get that and you get that confidence and you understand, hey, I can handle this, and they're all coming back. Yeah. I mean, I would
8
think
of 9 at least.
Yeah, but so the Dodgers.
And the pressure was on because they were number 1 in the state, the number 1 seed, playing in their hometown. That's a lot of pressure besides the fact that you're playing in the state tournament.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And, you get all the added distractions of that. And you're talking about, teenage kids. You know what I mean? We're not talking about grown adult pro athletes or even college athletes where, you've gotten used to it being that way and that's kind of your life. We're talking about teenage kids. That is a big pressure situation for them.
Rob, a question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but this Kaylin Kennedy, that's her name, right?
Yeah, Kaylin Kennedy.
Did she pitch against the Dodgers last year in the consolation game?
Yes, and they beat her.
I know it.
Beat her,
they
clobbered her.
9-zip or something.
Yeah, 8-0.
Yeah. I was wondering about that during the game last night. I go, is this the same gal? Because was it a question? She's made that much improvement in a year, or
it's hard to tell. I don't know that Cedar Rapids Kennedy was really locked in that game last year. It's when you lose that first game of the tournament, it's very easy to just go through the motions after that, and maybe that was the deal. It did seem to me like she was throwing harder and her stuff was a little better from last year to this year. But I also don't know how much we can figure in the fact that maybe they weren't locked in last year.
Maybe they were booting the ball
around. I think that
around.
could be a factor.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
All right, so we got to get Nevin on the High School Girls Athletic Association.
No.
You're not getting
that's
involved.
Rob. Oh boy, I've been down that road, done it. I'm out. More with the boys was my deal. I used to wrestle around with that boys association.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I've been where Rob has been, where you show up. They don't have a spot for you. It's a big game, and you're trying to set your equipment up and get going, get ready before the game starts, and it's tough. So Rob, good kudos to you to hang in there and call the game the way you did, because I listened to you. You're terrific. You do a great job.
Oh, that's right. All right, we'll be back with Rob Jones, Randy Kuhlman, and Nevin Mulholland. We're talking sports at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 4:30. The news is next.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I shopped the many highly rated term life insurance companies we represent, like Prudential and Mutual of Omaha, and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $27 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-589-5599. That's 800-589-5599. 800-589-5599. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. Lord's Cupboard of Fort Dodge is a food pantry whose mission is to feed the hungry in Fort Dodge and the surrounding areas. They're located in the office building at the First United Methodist Church at 127 North 10th Street. And their director, Joni Ham Olson, says this COVID-19 pandemic has presented some challenges and it's forced them to make some changes to their normal operations.
We continue to see hundreds of families over the course of the month serving our clients out of the upstairs. So we have made a lot of changes trying to be able to serve as many people as possible during the week.
Joni would go on to say that one of the issues they are facing is getting the food they need to distribute.
We noticed that Iowa Food Bank in Des Moines, which is where we get a lot of our meats and also our canned goods, their supply has not been as diverse as it had been in the past.
She says that those supply issues are not limited just to the Food Bank of Iowa, but also with local retailers.
Local grocery stores. There are items that we were buying on a regular basis that we aren't able to get right now. They are not able to get from their warehouse. We have had to make some substitutions on some things that we normally buy just to be able to continue to offer our clients needed things.
To find out more about the Lord's Cupboard Fort Dodge and how you can donate to help them further their mission, call 515-576-7586 or email lordscupboardfd@gmail.com. A Kansas City law firm has now concluded its report on allegations of racial disparities in the University of Iowa football program. Radio Iowa's Todd Kim with more.
The report says the Iowa football program adheres to a philosophy that mandates conformity and discourages individualism. 45 current and 29 former players were among those interviewed by the law firm, and many felt the foundation of discipline allowed some coaches to bully and demean athletes, and many black players felt targeted.
In sports, Fort Dodge softball fell 5-1 in the state championship game last night to Cedar Rapids Kennedy. The Cougars would score 4 in the third on 4 hits from the top of their lineup. The Dodgers would get 1 in the third as Malia Lowry would score their lone run after reaching on a bunt single. Dodgers would leave 2 on base in the third. Kennedy would tack on another run in the fifth. Dodgers would get 2 hits from Malia Lowry, but managed just a total of 3 hits off University of Nebraska signee Kaylin Kinney. Jalen Adams, Haley Wills, and Martina Lowry all named to the all-tournament team for the Dodgers. With the loss, the Dodgers still had a history-making season, going to the state championship game for the first time in program history. They'll graduate 1 usual starter and a total of 2 seniors from this year's team, who finishes as regional champions, state runner-ups, and closed the season with a 28-4 record. In the 5A third-place game, Ankeny Centennial no trouble with Muscatine, 10-0. In the Class 4A state championship game, Winterset upset Carlisle 4-3 to win the state title. Winterset entered as the 7 seed in the tournament and upset number 2 West Delaware in the quarters 7-4. As 6 seed Dallas Center Grimes 2-1 and upset defending champion Carlisle 4-3 in the finals. Winterset's Lauren Carter with 4 hits on the night and 2 RBIs. In the third-place game in 4A, Dallas Center Grimes a winner 8-4 over North Scott. Championship games on the agenda today. The 1A state championship at 7:30 tonight. The nightcap, Collins Maxwell, the number 1 seed, takes on Clarksville. In Class 2A, the Ogden Bulldogs will play for the state championship. They're the 3 seed. They'll play at 5 o'clock, taking on undefeated number 1 seed North Lynn. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 435. First of all, in the weather, it's 82 degrees, sunny, kind of a beautiful day, really. Overnight, it'll be clear with a low of 56 on the first day of August. Wow. Tomorrow, a little rain, mainly in the afternoon, increasing cloudiness with a high of 83. On Sunday, a chance of showers and a thunderstorm, mostly sunny with a high of 76. On Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 75. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 77. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high of 77. Thursday, partly sunny with a high of 81 degrees. Right now, again, it's 82 degrees in Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Richard Black of Farnhamville has died. Mr. Richard R. Black passed away July 28th at his home. There will be private family services for Richard R. Black at a later date. Travis Ellis of Rockwell City, formerly of the Carroll area, he lived in Carroll, and he was formerly of Rockwell City, died at the Paula J. Baber Hospice House on Wednesday. There's going to be a visitation Sunday, August 2nd, from 4 to 6. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn up a quarter penny at $3.16. December up a quarter cent at $3.27. March unchanged at $3.38 1/4, and May up a quarter penny at $3.46. August soybeans up 5 3/4 at $8.97 1/2. September up 3 1/2 cents at $8.90 1/4. November up 4 1/4 at $8.92 1/2, and January beans up 4 1/4 at $8.98. September wheat closed up 1 3/4 at $5.31 1/4. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at $2.89.30. August live cattle up $1.10 at $102.82. October up $1.12 at $107.87. August feeder cattle up $1.65 at $144.67. September up $1.80 to close at $146.22. August lean hogs up 57 cents at $52, and October up $1.30 at $49.62. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
I'm Connell McShane. This is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks ending in the green for the day and month, with the Dow racing earlier losses in the final hour of trading as shares of Apple rallied more than 10% after it delivered blowout earnings. The Dow rising 115 points, the Nasdaq up 157, S&P 500 up 25. And Microsoft is in talks to acquire the U.S. operations of TikTok, the Chinese-owned video app, according to Fox Business, as President Trump said he was considering taking steps that would effectively ban the app from the U.S. A sale to Microsoft, likely for tens of billions of dollars, would be a win for both TikTok and its Chinese owner, ByteDance. And Apple stock, the biggest Dow gainer, surging to a record high after reporting blockbuster quarterly results and announcing a stock split, helping the iPhone maker overtake Saudi Aramco to become the world's largest public company. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
We're the Retirement Income Store. We help hardworking Americans plan their retirement. Stop crossing your fingers and toes and hoping for growth in the stock market. You can invest for income without all the risk using interest and dividends. Start with our free Retirement Income Kit. Call 866-996-1173.
The Retirement Income Store, where retirees go for income.
Online at theretirementinComeStore.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm.
Save big money on your next project with 11% off everything. Now at Menards. Replacing your windows has never been easier. Menards has 140 size and style combinations of Gel-Dwen windows in stock, so you can complete your project today. Right now, all Gel-Dwen windows are 11% off. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through August 1st. Savings or a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
If you need more prayer and want to grow your faith, Pray.com is the #1 app for daily prayer and bedtime Bible stories. With Pray.com, you can hear the Bible come to life and listen to bedtime Bible stories that help you relax your mind and strengthen your spirit. Let the word of the Lord comfort you. Download Pray.com, the #1 app for prayer and sleep.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
800 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. It's Friday. We're talking sports, of course. It's our great pleasure to have in the studio with us today Randy Kuhlman, Nevin Mulholland, and, of course, Rob Jones, our news and sports director, who broadcast the game last night from Harlan Rogers Park, where, unfortunately, and I have very mixed emotions this morning. I'm very, very proud of the girls, and I'm sorry that they lost, of course, to a very tough Cedar Rapids Kennedy team. Rob, before we let you go, and I know you got to get a newscast prepared, before I let you go, you broadcast the whole tournament. You were out there all the time. I'll tell you, you
just need to look at his face.
I was gonna
to know
say,
that. Jesus.
What stands out in your mind as far as the softball tournament this year?
Well, first of all, I thought on the city end and the local end, I thought it was a first-class deal. I know it was challenging for everybody with it being a pandemic and trying to deal with that. And, we said we were going to social distance, and I don't know that we did that, but I do know that a lot of people worked hard to make that tournament what it was. So first thing, and it's a special event. For me, it's the second one I've done here in Iowa, and I've been in 3 other states as my 4th state to do the state tournament, and it's a special experience. It really is. It ranks up there with everything I've done. Texas State Football Championship, Oklahoma Girls Basketball Tournament, which are great on their own, but this one ranks right up there with it, and I thought it was a well-done event, and I had a great time, and we were out there all week. Luckily, it was here in town, so I was able to kind of shuttle back and forth between here and the offices and and the ballpark. So, everything aside, locally, I thought Lori Brandhorst and the whole group that runs the deal out there at Rogers on the local end was great. The only issue that I had was on a state level, so I've got nothing bad to say about how the tournament was handled, how it was ran on the local level, and I know it's great for the town, great for the economy, and paints Fort Dodge in a positive light, which we all would agree is something that we need here in Fort Dodge.
Right.
So I thought it was, all in all, a great experience. If we can figure out some of the logistics of maybe I don't have to sit in the bleachers or the parking lot next year, we'll be in a better spot.
All right. Rob Jones, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, you're right. It's great to have the girls here every year, but I want to ask you guys, whatever happened with that Dyersville thing? There was a lot of concern when Dan Payne used to come in when he was still with us and talk about the danger that the Dyersville project was going to have to the girls' state softball tournament coming to our town.
They were going to build a baseball, softball
right.
complex.
That's what they were going to do.
They haven't done that yet.
I
don't think. There were plans on that, and it was independently financed.
Yeah.
And I don't think it happened, though,
No.
Mike.
I think the biggest threat for Fort Dodge is going to be because they're building some really nice ballparks down in the Des Moines area.
Yeah, that's where.
And there would be the biggest threat. But I'll tell you, the union likes Fort Dodge, and although it didn't happen this year because they had to move the tournament back a week, but I'll tell you the other advantage Fort Dodge offers is Iowa Central provides dorms for these girls to stay in overnight, and I think they do it almost free of charge, and that's huge.
That is huge.
And that's something that isn't going to happen in Des Moines, and and for these towns that have to bus up here and like Muscatine, think of that drive up here,
Yeah.
and
which works against us, I think. Des Moines centrally located.
Des Moines is centrally located. That's
do you think
advantage.
they're more centrally located than we are, though?
Des Moines? Oh, sure.
Well, no, wait a minute. It's better for the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and Muscatine teams. But, there's teams in northwest Iowa that might find us a lot more attractive.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, there's eastern Iowa.
If you look in the map, it's right in the middle.
It's right in the middle, it seems to be. Yeah, northwest Iowa. I'd love to keep it up here in Fort Dodge.
But I'll tell you,
I think there's a pretty strong argument to keep it in Fort Dodge. Des Moines could make that.
Oh yeah,
argument.
50 years we've had. This was our 50th year.
You just mentioned one, the bulb. I've been to Dyersville. It's a nice little town, but where are they going to put all the girls? If they ever got the tournament over there.
Yeah.
Dubuque is like 30 miles away, 25,
that's
30
in the
miles.
northeast corner of Iowa.
It is, that's way out of the way, yeah.
So
what are you going to do if you're in Council Bluffs or something?
Right. Yeah, I don't think
Des Moines
that's going to be.
would be.
I think Des Moines is the
threat.
biggest threat. But,
And to that point, we've done a really good job. We cater in a big way to the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Association to keep this tournament. I mean, the city of Fort Dodge, Lori Brandehorst's staff, the convention bureau, everybody works extremely hard. This is at the top of their radar screen.
They've got air-conditioned tents out there for staff and
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
great to have the girls here every year. I saw a bunch of them
yeah.
from North Scott I was out to Hy-Vee having lunch, and a bunch of these girls came in. And as a matter of fact, I also saw the Fort Dodge girl hit the big home run in the Centennial game. I can never
little Lowry girl.
I think so. Yeah, but
amazing.
It's just nice.
That was amazing. But I watched that replay of that. She swung as hard as she could. I mean, I don't know how it got out.
My guess is she's 5. They say she's 5'2". I'm thinking she's maybe 5 foot and weighs maybe 100 pounds at the most. And she's hit a line drive over that fence. It's amazing.
It was.
Wow.
I watched it. It's pretty
and then
remarkable.
She came back in this bottom of the 6th and hit a huge run-scoring single to give us a 2-run lead at the bottom of the 6th against Centennial. And yeah, in girls softball, there's a big difference between run 1 and a 2-run lead, and that was huge too. So she made a tremendous defensive play in that game as well. So
she had a
great
made all
tournament.
Yeah, she made all tournament, and deservedly so.
What was her position?
Second base.
Second base.
And
yeah,
then
that's
her
right.
twin sisters are right fielder. Yeah, so
her twin sister.
Yeah, good little players. Not very big, but they're fast and very skilled and. You know, that Kennedy pitcher, I mean, she had to be 6 foot, 6'1", and she was a big gal.
Whoa.
And she's on that mound 45 feet away from home plate. And this little Lowry girl, she's up there fighting off. She must have had 5 foul balls, you know, in the last time she was up the plate. And then her twin sister was the only one that got a base hit against the Kennedy pitcher. And she got one in the bottom of the 7th. And then
is the Cedar Rapids girl, is she graduating this year? Or has
graduated? She's going to Nebraska. Yeah.
Oh boy, on Cornhusker Highway. Huh?
Yeah. So it was a great tournament.
All right. You ever been over to the big stadium there in Lincoln?
Have you? Boy, I went over there a lot back in the day when I was living in Omaha. I always went down for the Nebraska-Oklahoma game, which was terrific.
In those days, it was one of the biggest games
Billy
in the country.
Sims,
You
I saw him play.
Yeah, that was
and
always on Thanksgiving weekend, wasn't it?
Yep, Black Friday.
Yeah,
and
Black Friday, yeah.
we'd always go down to that. 2 of the 3 years I was in Omaha, and then I went down and saw Iowa State beat Nebraska at Lincoln. It was one of my great moments in history that I happened to be at. I was so excited about that. We were sitting in the middle of the card section. Nebraska used to have a card section.
Yep.
And every time, and Iowa State didn't score a lot, scored a couple times, and we'd light up big stogies. And by the end of that game, we had more fruit in our little section there because everybody's throwing their oranges and apples at us. And it was late in the year, so they were planning on the oranges because they thought they'd be going to the Orange Bowl. And so Iowa State beat them that year, and it was really good fun.
Were you there during the Johnny Rogers and Greg Pruitt years?
No, I got there after that.
Those were great games. Greg Pruitt, I think.